Hi, this is Maurizio from Kataklysm, and you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo, and my guest today is Maurizio Iacono, the singer of death metal band Kataklysm. In addition to fronting the band, Maurizio spearheaded the projects Invictus and X Deo. He is also the founder of Distortion Music Group and co-owner of the booking agency Continental Touring. Maurizio, I need to catch my breath, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, dude, you do a lot, but let me start by asking about the new Kataklysm album, Goliath.
Sure.
Yeah, well, it kicks off with the phrase, kings may be chosen by God, but they still make the mistakes of men. I love that.
Right.
What a way to start an album.
Right. Well, I got it off a movie that I watched. I'm a big movie guy, so I like books, but sometimes I don't have the time to read like 1,000 pages, so
yeah.
Movies to me are short versions of that, like the general idea. So I watched a movie called Medieval, and that's in the movie. And I thought that when I heard it, I was like, hey, this is really cool because it goes with the concept of the record. And if you know the history of Kataklysm, we like to put movie bits in the beginning of every record, almost every record. So it's just meaningful with the record, and it is the way we live. We think that we elect some people to govern, and then we see that they don't keep their promises, and they make mistakes even if they think they're invincible. So I think it was a great kind of start for the record. So
yeah. Well, when I look at the story of David and Goliath, I see conflict, fear, but also courage from David to defeat his opponent. Were some of these themes also reflected in the lyrics, or is it more a political statement, or?
It's not really a political statement. I think that it comes from a different place for me. Like, I like you mentioned before, I'm a very busy guy, right? I also have a management company, so I manage a bunch of bands as well. So I'm just a workaholic, and I think that for most of the last 20 years, I would say I've been in this mode of like producing and working and doing all this stuff. And when COVID came and the pandemic, it stopped everything, right? So it gave me a time to analyze my perspective on things, also to see how quickly the world stopped, how everybody obeyed. Everybody was just jump and you jump, and it's like it was a very weird time. I think that there was a lot of heavy-handed approach by the government, and then from there we've come into now censorships and all kinds of things like this. And so Goliath is kind of not only an aspect of the general aspect of what we're seeing around us in the world. It's not just one place, it's the world. It's also a mental thing because like you said before, fear, I think, is the biggest enemy. And that can be the biggest monster in your brain, from stopping you from doing the things you feel are right, or also to better yourself. So it's facing your demons as well, so Goliath is a general idea.
Right. Funny you say that, because I live in Canada, in Toronto, but I'm currently in Rio, where I came from, where I grew up.
Awesome.
Family things. I'm spending some time in Rio. And the same fear-mongering, the same censorship, the same persecution of ideas I see here as I see in Canada, in the US. It's kind of like the pandemic, the real pandemic nowadays is persecution of ideas. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
I absolutely agree. And it's very scary because for me, there's two huge important principles in life. And to me, the freedom of speech and freedom of choice is very important. Everybody has their own bodies. They can decide what they want to do with it. I think it's important. And also the freedom of speech, because me and you are not doing this. If we can't debate, then, if we don't have the freedom to do it, then it's done, right? So I think there's a lot of this now that we are all online and that we are all controlled by these big techs, because that's what it is. If they say this is not going with what we want to hear out there, so you're stopped, that's not the way freedom works. So I think that we have a big problem with that right now. A lot of division.
Let me ask you about Bringer of Vengeance. I think it's one of the first singles that came out, and it describes a patiently plotted revenge. Was that based on mythology or current themes or something a personal situation for you, or?
It can be anything. You know, like when I write with an open book. It's an open book. So basically, I have my idea. Obviously, when I write something, I write it with my own ideology behind it, but it's written in a way that it's open. It can be interpreted in any sort of way. You know, it could be people that are, you know, putting you down all your life, and then, you know, inside of you, you got the juice to do what you need to do. And the people around you just don't want to support you, but at the end you must make it with this and with courage. So that's one way to see that song. There's the other way of like, you know, everything takes time and patience to achieve a goal, right? Which is something, in my opinion, that's disappearing more and more, especially with the new generation, that they're not capable of having patience. You know, it's like now or abandon it, you know. And then humanity didn't go this far with not having any patience. There was a lot of patience and a lot of, you know, failures to get to something. So that's what Bringer of Vengeance is. And obviously we made the movie thing, like we did the aftermath, and then we did the prequel after with Die as a King.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, Die as a King, the both videos are awesome. You know, has that medieval thing, medieval setting as well. Where were those videos recording? Is it everything like a green screen or chroma key?
So some of it is green screen. The rest is all actors doing it in their specific areas. So where the band shots are green screen, because we were you know, all together. We went into Serbia to do it. We flew into Serbia we did the tour with Soulwork in Europe. So we were flying in to do the two videos before, and then we did the tour. So it was all like great, because in Serbia you can shoot videos with certain companies that will be the same quality as Hollywood, but much cheaper. You know, if we go to Hollywood, we'll do one video and that's it for the for the whole thing. So it's worth it to do it that way. And but it was real actors and real situations.
Very cool, very cool. Let me ask about one of my favorites, which is The Sacrifice for Truth. And there's a reason for that. And same as Die as a King, you can hear the bass loud and clear, and it's like in your face, right? Right. When it comes to production, I think this album does take things a lot further than you guys did before, at least in my view. And absolutely, and we have a great team right now that we're very happy with. You know, Chris Clancy out of the UK, he's the mastermind behind the production, and obviously we have the touch of Colin Richardson on this record, which is like a legendary producer. He's the guy that when everything was done was like, lift this, do this, you know, like that. So he's you know, he's worked with Machine Head and Overkill's last record he did, and he did a lot of, you know, big albums, and you could see the basses everywhere. He likes that a lot. Tech, you know. So The Sacrifice for Truth is a very strong track. We really like it. It was actually written by my bass player. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. But I will say this: it's very rare for a death metal band to have a bass like right in your face like that. So I do appreciate the production.
They're more guitar driven or drums. But we were adamant about having a production that you could hear everything clearly, but with a lot of power. And this new tuning that we've brought in on the last record, Unconquered, I think we perfectioned it on this new one. You know, we're working on sound to modernize the band also. You know, we're not little young kids anymore, so we have to kind of keep up with the times, and we're a band that's aware of that.
What kind of tuning did you use? Like, I can't pick by ear, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I don't even know what it is. I'm not a guitar player like that, but I think it's dropped. It's really like D or something. It's down.
Got it.
7 string.
And I think I hear you say in an interview, and I agree, this album, more so than many of the previous Kataklysm ones, it's best experienced in full as opposed to standalone tracks. I listen to it start to finish on my runs, and, you know, at the gym, just works perfectly as a whole.
And we think it's funny. We released Bringer of Vengeance first, and the reason we did that is also because the song's very catchy, and it's got a lot of groove, which is the big element of Kataklysm. We thought it was the right track to start it, but then we started having the little complaints of, hey, there's no blast beats, there's no this, there's no that, and I was like, you gotta listen to the record. There is plenty of everything. It's just Kataklysm is a storybook, you know, like when you open it, you got to go through the whole thing to understand it, you know. And so
Yeah.
and if people should know that about us, because all our records are kind of like that. It's difficult to pinpoint Kataklysm with one song, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah.
And what stands out to me is how inspired you guys still are. You know, 15 albums in 28 years, it's a lot. And you
Yes.
still sound energized, fresh. It's not easy to achieve. To what do you credit that? I mean,
consistency, and one thing that's very important, I think, at least for Kataklysm, this is therapeutic also. So when you need to do something, you're going to find a way to do it. And Kataklysm is uses music in a therapeutic way as well. Not only me, but like even my guys, you know, it's like that's their output. You know, some people punch a bag, and I go and I go to the gym and I play music. Those are the two things that I'm really big about, and I'm very determined person. And when we decided that this was going to be a career and that we're gonna pump music out as a career, then we took it seriously, and then did not wait like 5-6 years between records like some bands do, you know, like for Kataklysm. I think in death metal, a similar band in the sense of outputs and just always they're releasing records and touring records and touring is like Cannibal Corpse. I think we have the same amount of albums, or very close. You know, they maybe have a little bit more than us. So it's like,
Another thing that's similar between the two is that you both guys have just a frontman, a standalone frontman, which, you know, in death metal is usually the guitar player or the bass player that also sings, but you guys have standalone frontman, which is kind of rare, but
it's rare, yes. But I think it brings attention to it, right? So it becomes a detail that's more than just the instruments on stage, and it's easier also to interact with fans. And I also tend to see, I mean, unless you're Slayer, and I mean the two biggest bands are probably Slayer and Metallica, and they all have that, but Iron Maiden is also, you know, vocalist by himself, and Pantera and all these bands. So I'm more influenced in that world, but it's, you know, whatever works for a band, I guess.
Got it. Yeah. And let me ask you about the cover. I mean, Eliran Kantor, every client of his that I interview, Halloween, Testament, Malevolence, you name it, they're in awe of what he can do. And he's just amazing, isn't he? His style is like instantly recognizable.
Correct. And the thing is with him, that's really cool, is that to me is like the Leonardo da Vinci of death metal, you know, like, or metal in general. And if you want to go with something biblical or historic or ancient, he's the guy. You know, like he's capable of, and what we wanted to do is take that story of David and Goliath and make it a modern version of it, make it cool looking, almost like comic book, you know, like make it kind of a very metal artwork. And I think he achieved it. I mean, there was maybe 2 or 3 fixes to do on the artwork, and it was already there, you know. So when I saw the sketch, so it was really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. And I mean, how important is a cover for you and the band in an area where many fans will only see it as a thumbnail in their computers?
Right. Well, it's so you're telling people what the record's about, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to in metal, we like to be transported. So I think that if the artwork is the visual is as important as the music sometimes. And I think that especially in artwork, I'm not going to say that a video is the most important thing, you know. Although we are more and more in a world of YouTube, and like that's what's grabbing the attention. But the artwork is something that also ends up on T-shirts. It ends up on a lot of things. And that's the thing that people want to associate themselves as well, you know. So it's important.
Yeah, I was gonna say as well, the T-shirts with this background here, the cover of Goliath, just really awesome. I want to get one.
Yeah, I will make sure that you get one.
Good stuff.
Really cool.
And well, this is the first album with James Payne on drums, and he certainly does not disappoint. Like you said, there's blast beats all over the place, and intricate parts. What was the process to bring him on board and acclimatize him to the band?
Right. So you know, obviously we had Oli before, is a very good drummer as well, you know, competitive, and he did like I think 4 albums with us, if I'm not mistaken. And during like I said, the pandemic did so many things, and one of the things it did is like we had some friction. There was a little bit of things going on pandemic. But so when something like that happens and the world stops, if there's a crack, it'll open it up more. It'll enhance all the issues that you might have even in your brain or whatever. And like, so in this case, the relationship was already bruised, and this kind of broke it. So we were in a position of making a decision, and we decided to move on. He decided to move on, and then we ended up with James, which is a friend of ours from a long time, and we've always kept in touch. And James came in right away, and it was automatic fitting in the band. Like, it was just like perfect, and we decided to tour before doing this record so that we can get to know each other, because when you're on the road, you're spending more time with your guys in the band than your family. So it's like important to have that connection, and we had chemistry right away. One important thing is, if you see pictures of Kataklysm online, for the last 6 years, you'd only see us three, me, JF, and Steph, right? Now he's starting to only James in all the pictures. So he's part of the band, you know what I mean? And that creates a great chemistry. So coming into this record, the one important thing he did is bring the authenticity of the band back, in the sense that there was blast beats and things that Ollie did not want to do anymore, that were from previous drum, that kind of made the signature of the band. He had no hesitation to bring those back in. He actually offered, he says, let's keep it authentic, and I'm going to bring my style in it, so it was really a great combination, and so far so good. We're very happy, and this is the first album together, so I can tell you that I think there can be much more chemistry coming in the future.
Awesome. It does show that you guys, work as a unit, as opposed to what was going on in previous years. And you're also involved in the projects X Deo and Invictus. What else is planned for these two bands?
So Invictus is just a project that was born out of the pandemic, because I had nothing to do, and I was like, I'm going to do a solo album that I wanted to do for a while, with experimentation of clean vocals and a bunch of stuff, which the record was very well received. It's good for me, but it might be a one-off. I don't know yet. But for X Deo, it's a project that I really still enjoy very much to do, and it's it goes into my roots. It's a very I love history, so for me it's something that I would like to continue doing. I think we have a plan to do some new material, start writing maybe at the end of the year, something, and then we'll see what happens when we can release it, because this record right now for Kataklysm has gained a lot of momentum, and it's doing very well for us, and it's coming out only in 2 weeks. So instead of thinking about doing other things, I kind of should put attention to this, because it's looking very strong at the moment. So
I can tell it's going to keep you very busy in the upcoming months or years, right? But I do have a comment on X Deo. I know you're Italian, you have Italian background, and you take advantage of that in the lyrics. I mean, my middle name is Italian as well, and I've been there. It's crazy how history jumps at you at every corner in Italy, right?
Oh yeah. And that was the inspiration. I mean, it's I went there on vacation, and you're walking down any street in Italy and you touch a wall, it's been there 2,000 years. It's like it's so you have that type of feeling of an ancient world that's been through so much you couldn't even understand. You can't even wrap your head around it. It's so crazy, and it's just a beautiful country from start to finish. And I mean, like, if you go all the way to the borders of the north, which is bordering Austria or Switzerland or whatever, and then you come down all the way to the islands of Sicily and all that, you're going to be blown away by what you see. It's nonstop treasures of history. So to me, it's very inspiring, and what the Romans have done is crazy. So it's a perfect metal themed subject.
Absolutely. Yeah, they gave us lyrics for years and decades to come.
I once told somebody, it's like, so how do you get inspired by X Deo? I said, all you got to do is look at the history and all the stories and just do that.
Exactly.
Like, you have enough for an entire career.
For sure. And are you still based in Quebec or not?
No, so I was obviously born in Canada, in Montreal. All of us are, except James. Obviously, James half British and half Italian also. So his name is James Payne, but he was raised in Italy, in Milan. So there's that connection also. And but all the rest of us are born in Montreal. I live in Florida right now. I've been here 3 years. I was in Chicago before for 20, and my guitar player lives in Dallas. The only one left in Canada is Steph, my bass player. He's not leaving. That's his patriot, like, and he's not moving out of Canada.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I have a question about that because, you know, I live in Toronto, but my impression is that the metal scene in Quebec, in Montreal specifically, is a lot more vibrant. People are more passionate about it. There's more concerts that go only to Montreal and don't come to Toronto. I don't know, to what do you credit that? Do you have the same perception or not?
Toronto's always also been a very good scene to me. Like it's been always in the top 3 of Canada. I mean, there's no denying that. You know, it's like it's Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, for example. Or, you know, Quebec City is in there, but it will be more like a 4th market. It's Montreal thing is that it's got more of the European flair, and it's very attached to France, so it has more of a European way of thinking. Also, the infrastructure in Quebec is completely different. You know, like if you go into Quebec, you feel like you're almost in Europe, even the way the buildings are built and everything. And it's just a different mentality. And it's a place where metal was born early. You know, even before we started, and we're 30 years old. I mean, you had Voivod, DBC, all these bands that have been there for a long time, and they've carried the torch and internationally. So it's kind of like a place for metal. You know, it still is. You know, like from what I understand, I mean, I'm not there much now, but I talk to people. It's still very vibrant, and bands coming out of there.
Yeah. And let me ask you about Distortion Music Group, your record company, and Continental Touring. Are these two totally independent endeavors? And how did you think of putting all of these together?
Well, you know, so I'm a little bit of a paranoid person, and so basically I live in that kind of middle ground, which I think is important, because they say, you know, only the paranoid survive. so the record label has 2 purposes. One of the purposes for Distortion was development of bands that don't get the good opportunity, give them a lot more in return for what the work they put in, because today it's very one-sided and there's not a lot of choices. So we're kind of partnering with bands, which is bringing a kind of different outlook to it. It's also something that if any day this crazy thing that just happens again, well, I'll have an output that I can use from working home, and then I could have a record label that I'm pumping music through and having my own independence. It also came out of the whole censorship stuff that's going on. It gives me my own outlet to be able to release stuff if something crazy happens, you know, like what if one day they think Goliath is not a good idea, you know? It's like, so it's kind of that paranoia behind it a little bit, but I think it's an important step to give bands something. And the agency is just another satellite that I have, which is, you know, giving bands opportunity to tour. We are the only middle class type of agency left, where we're capable of you know, being the bridge between a band that's starting out, developing, and bringing them to the big leagues. So there's very rare positioning like that. So we're one of the only ones. It kind of represents society in general, right? The middle getting crushed, and like it's crazy, but it's the same principle. So we're very happy to be in that position and helping bands out, you know.
Yeah, I saw the roster, and there's a lot of European bands who are like mid-tier or mid-sized that you help tour North America, like Tyr, for example, and Orphan Land, who are from Israel. But pretty cool. Yeah,
so we're very we have a big variety of bands. We've had more agents now to kind of continue to expand it to different styles of music. We have a lot of power metal bands too, and all kinds of stuff like that. So we just, in general, you know, try to output as much as we can and help bands out, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, between all of that, and also being a creative force for Kataklysm, you're involved in the whole supply chain of the music business. Is there anything you haven't done yet in this realm, or anything you want to tackle? Or
well, I haven't done an open air festival, which there's some talks to try and do something like that in the States, a little bit more smaller, not something too big.
Okay.
There's a couple of things I would like to finally do that I've been thinking about doing for many years. So we're looking at some stuff like that, but I've pretty much touched everything. Right now, I'm just kind of in that place where, you know, I want to give my 100% to everything. And so I'm delegating a lot of work to people and making sure that I'm available to do everything, you know. So, you know, as long as I got the energy and the body's good, like I'm going to keep doing what I do, you know, that's keeps me happy. So that's the important.
Yeah. And when it comes to touring, the touring plans of Kataklysm, I know you're going to Europe in a few weeks and you'll be playing some festivals there. What else can you reveal? What else is planned for the rest of the year?
So basically, we're leaving on the 31st, I think, or the 30th. So in about 2 weeks, we're gonna head out to Europe and do Wacken Open Air, Summer Breeze, Partisan, Alcatraz, Metal Days, like a lot of open airs. Because it's all structured around the record, and we got 2 album release shows also in Germany because we'll be there already. So we're gonna do all that stuff. We're coming back at the end of August or mid-August, and then we will start the campaign officially in Canada, which so you get information first. And it's because it just happened, and we're gonna start. We're gonna do Quebec and Ontario, and that's gonna be the kind of the launch of the Goliath campaign. We're gonna start over there.
Awesome. And you did some shows in South America recently, including Brazil, where I'm from. Places like El Salvador and Guatemala, which you hadn't played before. I mean, how did that go? The energy here is just off the charts, right?
Oh, it's off the charts. Brazil was completely packed. It was a sold-out show with the side, and it was insane. We had the boys in Christian come over to the show as well. So good friends of mine, and you know, Latin America, there's just this special vibe of you know, fans when they come out. It's like they live this, you know. It's like it's an everyday thing. It's a commitment, you know. So it's really cool to see. All the shows were very good, and I was very happy to finally go back and also try new markets like Guatemala and El Salvador, for example. Like, we've never been there, and a surprise to see how advanced even Salvador is for a country. Like I went there, I expected, you know, bumpy roads and you know, we don't know where we're going, you know. It's like, are we coming back alive type of thing? But a surprise to see how, you know, advanced it was, and tech, you know, even with tech and everything. And when we got there, we were very well treated, and the show was good.
Yeah, awesome. Well, booking a tour these days is an act of faith or craziness, depending on how you look at it, because of so many costs and liabilities. But you know, as soon as this is announced, I will definitely get to see you guys in Toronto later this year.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Great. And I look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a good show.
Maurizio, thank you so much for the interview. All the best for the new album, and I'll see you on the road sometime.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. I appreciate you, my friend. I'll see you in Toronto.
Cheers.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Ciao.